Alright, what is up YouTube? This is Space Captain again with another battle report of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Skirmish. Today we have Skaven versus the Undead. Today, our battle brings us to Treasure Hunt. The forces of Skaven have learned of 5 Horde caches in the center of Shadespire. Their underground intelligence teams have rumors of artifacts of great power that they could possibly use or just trade. You know, they're always in it for the money. Whereas the Undead, they heard rumor of artifacts of their king, and he is going to send basically his pillagers to, 1, stop Skaven from stealing these very important artifacts, and 2, also potentially get artifacts that could have the king able to call upon Nagash for favor and things of the sort. So, you all probably know already, these Horde caches, you basically have to be within 3 inches of them when they are not activated. Then activate them on a roll of a 6 for each model that is within the 3 inches they can roll. If you get a 6, then technically you uncover an artifact from the Horde cache, and the objective is to control at the end of the game the most artifacts. Once the Horde caches are uncovered and there's an artifact in place, the way that you claim that is you have to have more enemy models within 3 inches of that artifact in order to claim it. By the end of turn 5. So really interesting. Probably this one is the most accessible for all armies, just because, you know, if you're fast, you still got to get into combat. And if you don't get into combat, then you're probably not going to have any artifacts left. But vice versa, if you don't get to the artifacts, then you might not have any. Alright, and here we go. This is the board, the center dice with a 2 on it. That is the actual center of the board. We have 5 Horde caches, 2 of which are not on screen, but they are parallel with one another, basically where you see the dotted line of the road. Just off screen at the bottom, that is where the other cache is, and just off screen up to the top by the dotted road on the left side, that is where the 2 missing caches are. So here we have the setup. This is a nice center view. We are going to be deploying in the top right and also the bottom left corners of this map. So here we go. We have the Skaven Warband. These are all Plague Monks, regardless of the fact that some of them may be holding globes. I have always been really partial to Clan Skyer. I definitely prefer Clan Skyer in just lore to Clan Pestilence, but as far as the models are concerned, I really prefer Clan Pestilence because of their ability to actually perform. So I went ahead and compromised. I picked up a few of these converted Plague Monks who are converted into Wind Globadiers, but since you can't really use the Acolytes in Skirmish, I decided, hey, it would be really, really funny if basically my warband, instead of being a plague warband, also that Warlock Engineer right there, he's a Plague Monk. But to go with my lore, this is the Warlock Engineer and all of his basically apprentices, or really like workers, maybe junkies. Just like any warlock, he has access to a substantial amount of warpstone, or at least knows somebody who can. And all of these guys around him are basically just ravenous on warpstone. They are all addicted to the warpstone, and that is what is really going into play with the fact of them being so ravenous and, doing 2 attacks, 3 attacks on the charge, which would not normally happen for, say, a clan rat or a acolyte. So, just a little bit of lore and also an explanation as to the reason why I have certain models being who they are. So just keep in mind that Warlock Engineer is actually just a Plague Priest with a Warpstone tip staff. So, there you go. And of course, that is a Warp Fire Thrower on the left. Over here, we have the Undead. I believe we have 10 wolves. Looks like 10 wolves, 5 on each side. Yep. 10 wolves, 2 zombies, a corpse cart, and a Karn Wraith. Also, we went with a renown of 50 points for this battle, so that is also another explanation as to why we have the troops that we have. The lore behind his warband at this point in time, basically, this Karn Wraith is one of Vosh's right-hand men. And basically, after Vosh doesn't really have any campaigning for him to do with Vosh, or maybe Vosh is getting his custom-fitted bone crown custom-fitted, the Karn Wraith is set off to do basically just whatever he pleases, or whatever side campaigns that he has been tasked with by his immortal leaders. So with this, basically with the artifacts that are being either recovered or kept from being recovered by my looter Skaven, that is the task that this Karn Wraith has. He is trying to gain artifacts for basically Nagash and his Ghoul King, where also the objective is to stop Skaven, sneaky Skaven, from stealing any of his artifacts. Because they're very important, as you must know. You know, the dead, they really cling to their belongings, especially while they're in this physical world, and especially if they are imbued with a ton of magic. So as you can imagine, they really want this. Alright, so here we are on turn 1. We go ahead and, since he has less models, he winds up going first. But since we're so far away, it doesn't really matter too much. We can only move so far. So this is basically the start of turn 1 and also the end of turn 1. Here's a bigger picture. You can see that my Skaven shimmied up from the bottom right hand corner and the Undead shimmied from the top left, more towards the center cache. As you can see, the Karn Wraith is actually in place of one of the caches. I think it was between this turn and the next turn that we realized that once you do actually uncover an artifact, it doesn't disappear. You have to be within that certain bubble at the end of the game. It's not like just, you know, if you get there first and roll all 6s, then you win automatically regardless of the turn. Still have to fight it out. But he has uncovered one of the caches in his top left. Ouch, that is not good for me. Going off. We roll off for turn 2, and Skaven actually choose the first turn, so that's pretty cool. I go ahead and I shimmy my guys over a little more. Here's somewhat of a tilted picture, but this is my movement. I'm moving a lot of my guys kind of over. I moved a couple of my guys up towards that cache. I believe it was only 2 who I was able to go up to the closest cache to me. But I'm bringing 4 guys over, trying to claim the one kind of farthest away from him and I, whereas I'm trying to just kind of move my Plague Monks over. I'm trying to claim 3, give him 2, and then kind of just figure it out from there. But unfortunately, I did not want to overextend myself and get out of position, so here I am. Also, unfortunately, I rolled off with those 2 guys, and they did not uncover an artifact. So right now I'm at 0, he's at 1. So he goes ahead and moves. He moves a little bit closer, but Skaven still choose the first turn. Here's an actual... this is where he had moved, basically on his turn. Right now, he did not uncover the cache where his wolves are, and he did not uncover the cache in the very center, but he definitely has more bodies around them. So on his turn, he moves his... on my turn, basically I move as many of my guys up to the top as possible, and also send that unit of 4 guys over to the left. Basically, my take on this is I'm going to try and come up on the right and pour down overtake those wolves, because I know that if I have, 4 plague monks in there, then I'm going to have potentially more firepower and claim that artifact, regardless of whether or not he uncovers it or not. That's basically my goal, while maintaining a nice little bubble around the closest artifact to me, and potentially claiming the one all the way to the left with that unit of 4 on the bottom left. So here I am positioned a little bit. My take on this is with my Plague Monks at the base of that, at the base of the tower closest to where my closest artifact is to where I started. That's a mouthful. At the base of that ladder. I have my guys scattered out over there. Basically, I'm trying to leave it open so that if he does go ahead and pull in, to my bottom quadrant, then I can just, at the blink of an eye, bring all of my guys who are up top to help out and potentially crush that flank. So that's really what I'm hoping for. That's kind of my battle plan, my defense. You can see his Karn Wraith in the very, very center, right next to his corpse cart. And his Karn Wraith is hellbent on, of course, killing my Plague Monk leader, for sure. Here we are with basically the movement. He charges his dogs into basically my guys. We decided that they weren't actually walls, they were fences, so my guys are there and whatever, he can attack me over the fence. So here you have some charges. I've completely bottlenecked myself in a hallway for just about no reason. But and also he has those dogs right there in the doorway ready to charge on turn 4. So here we have a dog that shimmied up to the ladder, and also you can see his Karn Wraith behind him. So his Karn Wraith, as I said, he was hellbent on killing the Plague Priest. But since he has ethereal movement, he can kind of make a few stops on the way. So right here, he actually wound up charging into my Warp Fire Thrower. Reason being, on my shooting phase, I actually wound up completely zapping a wolf off the face of the earth. They have 2 wounds, it can do D3 wounds, but you don't have to roll to hit or anything like that. So as soon as he noticed that, basically I just pick anyone within 9 inches and do D3 wounds with the Warp Fire Thrower, he was like, alright, this cannot happen anymore, I'm going to take care of this right away. So that's why he put his Karn Wraith into my Warp Fire Thrower, and that was also something that I was planning on doing. So as you can see, aside from the Warp Fire Thrower, I have 3 guys in close to him that could potentially help out with combat and hopefully keep my Warp Fire Thrower alive. So as you can see, I have a nice little defensive position thought out. It's not like I just got caught with my pants down. But here we have the bottom left charge. The dog to the left actually wound up failing his charge, but he's going to make the pile in anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. So here we have my bottlenecked Plague Monks in this hallway with no hope. Getting attacked over a fence is that one guy who is actually the Bringer of the Word, who has the Book of Woe, which I definitely didn't want to just have die in a hallway for no reason. But, roll off for turn 4, the Undead chooses the first turn, so that kind of hurts, because my Book of Woe guy, he actually wound up making it out, but he has the first turn. So, with pile-ins and everything like that, this is basically how the first turn wound up. He's still attacking my Bringer of the Word, and also that guy at the furthermost quadrant on the left, he wound up dying. So, I have 2 of the guys who were in the hallway actually able to get out of the hallway and into base-to-base contact with the wolf. But also, you can see that he wound up, well, I guess you can't really see, he wound up doing a wound onto my Warp Fire Thrower, but didn't kill it. But also, I wind up doing 1 wound to the Karn Wraith with my Plague Monks, but still doesn't turn out. I was really hoping to get this turn, but it it did not happen for me. So here I have a gaping hole at the base of my ladder, which was really not what I was trying to do. Also, that yellow dice in the very center, my bringer of the word did put a wound on the wolf who was attacking him from behind, but he's still outnumbered, and his support ran out of the hallway screaming. Not like they could really support him anyway. As you can see, on his turn, he winds up charging in. He kills those 2 plague monks that were at the base of the ladder, which kind of, we were talking about it, and like, the whole reason why I had them there was so that in case they did die, I would still be able to move down on my turn. So after a little bit of discussing, we decided that, okay, sure, because that was the whole reason why I moved my guys up in the top like that, because otherwise, basically, I'm just here, and I can't do anything to defend myself, because otherwise, then I would only be able to get into base-to-base contact at the ladder with a Plague Monk, but then if I put a Plague Monk at the top of the ladder, and then he had his wolf at the bottom of the ladder, where would the charge be? Who would attack? Where would you go from the pile-in, especially since it is exactly 3 inches from that level down to the floor. So after a little bit of discussion, we just decided, hey, this is still a friendly game, so that even though my guys did die, that ladder is still open if I can complete a charge. Because that was also a big part of it. It's like, it's 6 inches from the top, it's 6 inches from my movement, and then I only have one guy who can potentially get all the way down to make the charge. So then what? Do I put my guy down 1 level, and then if I don't roll a 3, then I completely block myself, in which case we're back to the same thing. So, yeah, a little bit of gray area, but we figured it out. And here we are. I moved my guys down to attack the wolves. As you can see on my combat, I wound up killing 1 of the wolves, but 1 of the wolves are still there, who are at the base of my ladder. But you can see on the bottom left, both wolves are gone. My Plague Monks were actually able to kill those 2 wolves. The wolf who wound up actually killing my Bringer of the Word, he wound up getting zapped by the Pestilence Breath. I've gotten off Pestilence Breath, I think, 3 times in this game, but each time it only killed 1 wolf. I tried to put a lot of pressure onto the Karn Wraith with it, but every single time that I rolled like a 1, or not a 1, I rolled like a 2 or a 3 or something like that, and it just didn't do the wound to the Karn Wraith that I was hoping for, or the D3 wounds that I was hoping for. So here I have an uncovered artifact in the top right with more bodies around it. But he has uncovered the remainder of the artifacts. So right now I'm looking at basically just a 1 at the end of turn 4. He controls 2 of them currently, though, because he has moved out of range of the artifacts, basically to try and, murder me and make it so that I'm just completely dead. So, if he would have kept a few dudes back, it would have been a little bit different. As far as, he would have been controlling all 4 of them, and then there would have been nothing that I can do. So, the end of turn 4, it is 3-1, or no, my bad, 2-1 currently, because he only controls 2 of the artifacts, I control 1. Roll off for turn 5, and Skaven get the first turn. Oh my gosh, I need this. So, as you can see, I am ready for a World of Hurt. It is about to really just come down on me. And on my turn, I go ahead and this is actually at the end of all combats and everything. I am able to move one of my Plague Priests over there to the artifact on the bottom left, which has already been found, and basically I claim it. The other guy who was with him wound up turning around and blocking off a wolf who was destined to basically make that charge and ensure that I would have 0 artifacts. Also, the wolf down low failed his charge, I believe, or just didn't charge. It was something like that. I'm not quite sure why he's down there, but I have a standard bear actually on the level just below the artifact, within 3 inches. And yeah, so at the end of turn 5, this is where all of the movement, all of the combat, everything has gone. He moves in a Graveguard, but I wind up killing him off on the top. So he is just left with a Karn Wraith and a Wolf within range of that artifact in the bottom right. Whereas I have my Plague Priest, a Plague Monk, and then a Plague Monk with a Standard Bear underneath of the artifact. Also, he has his his corpse cart in the very, very center, controlling that artifact, and the zombie basically controlling that artifact up to the top right for the majority of the game. So, you might be wondering, well, what the heck does all that mean? Basically, that means that at the end of turn 5, I control 2 artifacts, and he controls 2 artifacts. His zombie up in the top right wound up failing a charge. He rolled a 1. And if he would have gotten that charge in, then he would have won the game. Because if it's contested, then it doesn't count, in which case he has 2. Whereas right now I have 2, but only because I have more bodies around that bottom right. So, this is the final picture of the match. You can see that the Karn Wraith has healed his wounds. The wolf is up there basically trying to murder my Plague Priest. But it winds up being a draw based off of the game type. Very, very interesting. Very tooth and nail. And I did not see that coming at all. I did not see that coming at all. But, hey, good for both of us. We see what we can work on. We see what happened, what we did well, all the above. So, brings us on to the MVP table. For the Skaven, definitely the Plague Priest. The Pestilence Breath particularly is very, very dirty. Also, there was this one ability where if any of my Plague Monks died, if I rolled a 6, it would cast a mortal wound onto the attacker that I did not do the entire game. Even though he survived to the entire game, my Standard Bear, he has that. So, ouch. But, Warp Fire Thrower, definitely really awesome. If he doesn't necessarily do much, he's just scary enough. And the Monks. 20 points for 20, and then you get all these bells and whistles with them. Bells and whistles. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the best 1-point model is in this game, but, I mean, I feel like they're definitely top 5, for sure. For the Undead, the Karn Wraith, just his mobility, his ability to ignore rend entirely, and then heal his wounds. I mean, that's pretty intense. Dogs, mobility, 2 attacks. Granted, they might not always do the wounds, but they're there, and they are just super, super light cavalry that is there. I mean, hey, you can't really do much better than the dogs, especially if they're 2 points a model. Yeah, because if they were 6, then he would have already been over, because he had 10 of them. But yeah, for 2 points a model, that's pretty dang good. And the Corpse Cart, casting his 5-up save to all of the dogs within 9 inches just for existing. Yeah, that makes the dogs way more worth it. And yeah, I mean, that's, you know, you wouldn't think of the Undead as being super fast. Definitely high defense and like able to take hits and regenerate, but this combination, I mean, you know, what is his weakness other than just, you know, not more wounds? So, that will conclude our battle report for the day. It wound up being a draw. We wound up trying to pick a few scenarios after this, and honestly, we just got kind of bored with all the different game types. Every other game type, other than treasure hunt or assassination, we were like, there are inherent, like, of course you're gonna win this one, of course I'm gonna win this one, vice versa. So we wound up pretty much. We tried another match, but I mean it was done in one round just because of the game type. So we completely called it, and we're not necessarily going to be taking a hiatus from Skirmish, but we definitely believe that it needs a little bit more to revamp it. Not sure if it is the dangerous terrain that we need, or if we just need different scenarios, or just even different win conditions within different scenarios. But we've pretty much beat this to a pulp with all of the different options that we can do, and I don't know, right now we are going to just take a few days to kind of decide what we can do to really spice this up, because we're doing this for us, so this is really just fun for us. My buddy and I mean, we have a lot of memories, but we've discussed how many we don't actually have recorded, or we have pictures of them, but so this is really just for us to relive the really fun battles, and also for y'all to get a feel for the game, but also for making battles and scenarios of your own. We're trying to have this as just as much of a learning experience for everyone as it is an entertainment experience, and also maybe an experience to give you some insight for maybe some modified game types that you could come up with in the future. And who knows, maybe if it's good enough, maybe Games Workshop will adopt it one day. Because, hey, I mean, if they're only putting 6 game types in each book for about, $6 to $10, I mean, they could come out with a new Skirmish book every 1 to 2 years and probably never run out of game types. It'd just be modifications added onto it. Which used to be what the purpose of White Dwarf was, but we'll see, Games Workshop. We will see. Alright, and that brings us to the very end of this battle report. Thanks for watching once again. If y'all have any questions, concerns, leave it in the comments section below. Let us know what we're doing right, doing wrong, what we could do better. Yeah, so thanks y'all for watching. This is Space Captain again with another battle report.